Today I'm going to tell you about the Korean language placement test that you will take in the beginning of your semester at Keimyung University in Korea. Stay tuned. I can only speak for Keimyung University, but this might be similar at other universities in South Korea as well. When you go to Keimyung University for a semester or to study there permanently, you will take a placement test in the beginning of the semester for the Korean language practice class before you will be sorted into different levels accordingly. Some people might not be interested in studying Korean and won't even take the language class, hence they won't have to take the placement test. Others are kind of interested in learning Korean but only to a certain extent, or would be nice to know a few words by the end of the semester, but that's about it. And then there are people like me who really want to learn Korean and would like to actually be able to speak more or less in the end and are willing to put time and effort into studying. So depending on what your goal is and which language class you would like to end up in, it might not be a bad idea to prepare for the test just a little bit. I will talk a bit about the different classes so you will be able to determine what level you might want to go for. After the test, all international students were sorted into 3 different levels. Level 1 being the easiest and level 3 being the most advanced one. Exchange students from Japan, by the way, had their own language classes, probably taught in Japanese. In the language practice level 1, they started by learning Hangul and then basic vocabulary and very basic grammar after that. The level 2 classes skipped the part where you learn Hangul and started with vocabulary and basic grammar right in the beginning of the semester. So for level 2, you need to be able to somewhat read and write Hangul. I didn't do the level 1 or level 2 classes, so I can only tell you what I've seen of other people's homework and workbooks and what they have told me. Also, since there was about 200 exchange students and some permanent international students on top of that, there was more than one teacher teaching the different levels. And especially in level 2, it was really dependent on the teacher how hard the class was. Some, or I think most of the level 2 teachers started with the same things that you would learn after learning Hangul in the level 1 class, so the major difference is just if you know Hangul or not. I heard of one teacher teaching level 2 though, who didn't use English to teach her class and only spoke Korean and asked for a little more than just being able to read and write Hangul as a requirement for her class. That makes it a bit harder if you're basically new to Korean. Level 3 was the most advanced course and it was quite advanced, I'd say. Apart from a few English words, our teacher only used Korean to teach us, and also the skills from the students that were placed in our class were so different. There were some international students from Asia and other countries who were majoring in Korean language, so they had already studied Korean for quite a while. And there was one international student who was a permanent student at Keimyung and already had taken the other levels before, and also one exchange student who already did a semester abroad at Keimyung previously and came back to do another one, so he already had taken one of the other classes a few years ago. And then there were international students like me who somehow managed to be placed into this class by doing quite good in the placement test, apparently. This made it quite hard for a teacher to choose a textbook, and we ended up using 2 different textbooks and sometimes also got different assignments, I think. In the beginning of the semester, I didn't understand much of that class. I didn't understand anything the teacher was saying because she only spoke Korean, and the grammar we learned was pretty advanced. But she also kindly provided us with material from beginner textbooks so we could self-study to catch up, and in the first week she even went through basic verbs and stuff with us. I was able to read and write Hangul, but not good enough to even read along the stuff we did after the first week. But I put in some studying every day and managed to catch up and even got an A+ in the end. And when I took the oral exam in the end of the semester, the teacher praised me for improving so much in this short period of time Because believe me, the semester is not that long. Time passes so quickly when everything is new to you and you have to adjust so much. So it is totally possible, even with just knowing Hangul and like 5 words of Korean and the most basic sentence structure, to manage the level 3 course if you are willing to put some time and effort into it. If, however, you feel totally overwhelmed or you feel that the class you have been placed in is way too easy for you, it is possible, if you talk to the teacher, either switch classes or do some guided self-studying in class with some more advanced textbooks that your teacher might provide. Now to the test. It totally depends on you how much of it you want to solve. On the top part, you just fill in your name, nationality, major, and basic information. I wrote most of that in Hangul as well as in English, just to make sure that it's correct. Your name specifically might be hard for the teachers to identify when you write it in Hangul only, and they don't know how to pronounce it, and then they have a hard time finding you on the list, which is written in alphabet. I know that we had our names on our doors in the dormitory written in Hangul, and it was totally different from how I had written in Hangul because they used the English pronunciation for my last name to transcribe it and not the German pronunciation, which they probably didn't know was different. After your personal information, there was a line asking you, do you know the Korean alphabet Hangul? And then a little checkbox that you could check if yes and leave unchecked if not. A lot of people only did those parts and that was it. We can't know for sure that it was really like that, but we had a strong feeling that if you didn't check the box, you would obviously be placed in level 1, but just checking the box automatically put you in level 2. That means if you want to be placed in the level 2 class, you should look into Hangul and practice that a bit. The first couple of questions were multiple choice type questions where you had some sentences with blanks and you had to choose the right particle to complete the sentence. If you don't know what particles are and you are okay with being placed in level 1 or 2, you're probably fine. If you want to be placed in level 3, I advise you to look into that. Now this part, as I said, is multiple choice, and some people said they think that if you just try to solve this part and the next one, even if everything is incorrect, they put you in level 3. But I know of some people who had no idea and just randomly picked stuff and they were still placed in level 2, so I don't think it's that simple. The next part, after the multiple choice questions, involved some actual writing. There were like 4 or 5 questions in Korean which I had to answer in Korean. So how did I get placed in level 3 if all I knew was Hangul and how to say my name and maybe a few words? I think I had an advantage because I know Japanese, so at the time I already understood the concept of particles and the sentence structure is also basically the same. Also, a lot of words that are derived from Chinese characters sound somewhat similar in Korean and Japanese. I had no idea what was written in most of the sentences where I had to choose the right particle. I just tried to solve it using Japanese grammar. As well as for the questions after that, I don't really know what I was asked there. I think one was where I was from or if I was a foreigner or something, and another one was something about where I live right now, but I don't know for sure. I just used what was written in the question and rephrased it into what I was hoping might work as an answer for that question using Japanese grammar. Apparently it worked. Yay! I wish I could tell in more detail, but since I didn't actually understand 95% of the Korean words that were written on that piece of paper, and we didn't get the test back after, I really don't know more. You take the placement test right after the welcome ceremony in the auditorium of the new Bao Hall, and my main goal was just not to be placed in the class for beginners, because I wanted to be challenged and actually learn to speak at least some Korean. So the night before I was a little freaked out and looked at some vocabulary like nationality, Germany, Korea, student, stuff like that. I had no idea that I was gonna end up in the level 3 class, but I'm very happy that I did. So as a final conclusion, for level 1, you don't need to prepare anything because this is a class for beginners where they teach you all the basics starting from Hangul. If you know some Hangul but aren't very confident, I think you should still check the box where they ask you about it and just practice a bit more before the first lecture. Because if you relearn it with everyone who has never seen it before, you are going to be bored in class. One of my friends had this exact thing happen to him. He didn't check the box because he wanted to learn the alphabet properly once more, but he was also more motivated than most students in his class and ended up being bored to death and not challenged at all in class. If you want to learn more advanced grammar in Korean and want the class to be a bit more challenging, apart from Hangul, you should look at grammar concepts like what are particles, the basic sentence structure, honorific endings of verbs, and maybe some vocabulary to be placed in level 3. I hope this information was helpful for you if you're thinking about taking the Korean language practice class at Keimyung or any other university in South Korea where they might have a similar test. If it was, please let me know by giving me a thumbs up and comment if you have any further questions that I might be able to help you with. As always, I hope you're having a great day and please consider subscribing. I'm constantly working on more content regarding Keimyung University and living in Korea in general. Thank you for tuning in and see you soon. 안녕!